No, I was just reading through the comments section on Varg's video about NATO, and it seems to be fraught with some anti-America sentiment from our friends across the pond, and a lot of Americans trying to be defensive, saying that the actions of their government do not speak for them. And this is how the discourse always goes. I have been wanting to make this video series for a long time, and I think it is perfectly appropriate to do it now. So, this is going to be a series of videos on the truth about the nature of our government at this time, the American government, how it came to be that way, and what you can do about it, and what it means if you understand the situation, what it would mean for you and your personal freedoms. Now, most of the information I've gotten from this is from teamlaw.net, so you can check it out there. However, you're going to go through the filter of a evangelist Christian guy, and some of his analyses, I think, are misguided. For example, his path to reseating the jurisdiction, the original jurisdiction government, I think, is flawed in its approach. And that's just evidenced by the fact that he's been trying to do this for like 10 years and still hasn't been able to do it. So, the basics are, in this video, I'm just going to describe the general overview of the situation. And if you find these claims to be fantastical, then just stick around for the second part of the video, or if you don't want to do that, then you can go to teamlaw.net and find it for yourself. So, as far as the America, the international terrorist organization which is involved in foreign wars, has entered itself into treaties like NATO, which has diplomacy across the globe trying to further its own interest, or perhaps someone else's interest. This is actually a corporation. That's the truth of it. It is not the original jurisdiction government of the United States of America as we perceive it, which is a country. The United States government is a country, and the corporate United States is a corporation. So the corporation is involved in all of the foreign wars. They're the ones that are taxing the people. They're the ones that have police officers on the road. They're the ones who passed the Homeland Security Act. They're the ones who seat the Supreme Court justices. They're the ones who regulate guns sales in the United States. They are the ones who actually are owned by the IMF, okay? In the Bretton Woods Agreement, the United States turned its coffers over to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, which coincidentally is now headquartered in Washington, D.C., I believe. The United States government didn't have the authority to turn its coffers. It's turn over the U.S. Treasury to a foreign entity. So it was the corporation that did this. So the corporation is now owned by the IMF. So it's a foreign-held corporation which has a stranglehold over commerce in the United States, because most people here in the United States who work go through the Social Security Administration because they think that their Social Security number identifies them, but it actually identifies a trust which was created between the Social Security Administration and the citizen, which is how they get around constitutional restrictions on what the government can and can't do to people, because they do it through the trusts, and the corporate government is the one doing it. So, it is a foreign-held, treasonous, communist corporation acting inside of America, masquerading as the U.S. government, and pretty much no Americans know about it. And when you tell them about it, I've been trying to tell friends and acquaintances and such, and no one really seems to understand. It's unfortunate, but that's the state of our country. So, what this means, sorry, I'll qualify communist real quick, because the fact is that they take money by force. They take the hard-earned fruits of the laborer by force and redistribute them to others. So that's the communist nature of it, and also the fact that they control commerce and everything is centrally planned with the regulations. So that's the communist aspect of it. Anyhow, what this means, as it relates to the NATO issue, the corporation is the one perpetrating these wars, and it only makes sense that these wars are fought for money interest because it's a corporation. And originally, the corporation was created to handle financial needs of the United States after the Civil War. However, it has evolved into this monster that it is. And it only makes sense that money interests and corporate interests and such are the main factors here, and that corruption runs right down the ladder from bottom to top. Or up the ladder, I guess that would be. Because it's not corruption in politics, it's corruption in corporate politics. This corruption within a corporation where everyone is out there to make money. Now, what this means for foreign wars, I tell you how it works in America. A politician runs for office, they make promises, nobody says anything about starting wars. Pretty much everybody says they're not going to start wars, they're going to end wars and stuff. They get elected, they're not held liable for any of those promises. They can break every single promise and do the exact opposite, and they can never be held accountable for that. And what the people can do, so by the time the president has like had some time in office, and then we get involved in another foreign war or something, or whatever the issue is, by that time there's nothing that people can do about it. Only thing you can do, the only active thing that you can do is not join the military. And as far as criticizing Americans for not stopping its government from being involved in foreign wars, that's the only thing we can do, is not join the military. And I would wager exactly 0 members of Varg's audience are actively enlisted in any American military organization. I would wager that. If there's any of them, it would be less than 10, I would say. So, you can stop paying your taxes. That's a good way to stop participating with them. But, I mean, you can do it lawfully, as I will explain in further videos, and I kind of went over in another video. But this would not stop the foreign wars, because the United States government funds their military operations through government bonds, which is just a pyramid scheme. That's all it is, because they're borrowing from the future with interest that they will never be able to pay. So it's the government bonds are a pyramid scheme, and I think the Federal Reserve is the one that buys most of the government bonds at this point, so it's really just propping up this house of cards. So it doesn't matter how little taxes get paid, they're just going to sell more government bonds, and they're still going to be involved in the military action, because in most cases it is a certain in-group who is interested in these wars being carried out. There's no way for the Americans to stop their government from doing these things, and it turns out their government is actually a corporation. So in the next part I will go over a little bit of the history of the corporate United States and qualify exactly how it can be, how it is known to be a corporation and such.